Hate to say it, but you're still fired. It's my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Mitch McConnell. Senator McConnell has served as the Senate Republican leader since 2006. Senator McConnell has united a diverse Republican conference under his leadership in order to defeat repeated Democrat attempts to pass legislation like cap and trade and Disclose Act. And he continues to lead Republican efforts to repeal Obamacare and pass a balanced budget amendment. I'm not sure if you're watching TV, but all sorts of celebrities are trying to move to Kentucky to take him out. I'm not sure if it's Lady Gaga or Lil Wayne, but there's only one celebrity that could win that seat, the Honorable Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. I want you to take a look at that stack of paper behind me. It's the most powerful argument yet against Obamacare. What you're seeing is 20,000 pages of rules and regulation. $20,000 pages. And if you think that's bad, wait till they try to fix it. On Wednesday, we had a vote in the Senate to defund this monstrosity. Every single Republican voted to defund Obamacare. And of course, every Democrat voted the other way. And that's what these Democrats voted for. This monument to liberalism right here behind me. They're going to have a lot of fun explaining that to their constituents, I can tell you that. This law is a disaster. Anybody who thinks we've moved beyond it is dead wrong. Obamacare should be repealed, root and branch. And I want you to know we're not backing down from this fight. It's an honor to be here, always is. So I want to thank Al Cardenas for inviting me and for all the hard work he's put into this year's event. As usual, Al and his team have put together a fantastic slate of speakers. And in keeping with the theme of this year's CPAC, they've all asked us to point the way forward. That means there won't be a lot of looking back this year at CPAC. And speaking for myself, I couldn't be happier about that. We've had a tough election last November, and it's perfectly appropriate to study what happened. There are a lot of lessons to be learned and ideas to look at. But I bet you're like me. I'm a little tired of the hand-wringing. Conservatives were never meant to be part of the crybaby caucus. I know folks have a lot of opinions about what happened in November, but seriously, how many conferences and lunch panels do we really need to have about it? I'm starting to wonder if the caterers union is behind it. Now, you know, back home in Kentucky, parents have a way of teaching their kids about how to deal with adversity. If you get your tail whipped, you don't whine about it. You don't look for somebody to blame. You stand up and you punch back. If you have noticed, the folks who won last year's election didn't waste a whole lot of time on a victory lap. They got right back at it. These guys are well organized, they're well financed, they're ruthless, and if you don't put this election behind us soon, they're going to eat our lunch again. So let me just add my voice to the post-election chorus and say this: it is time to unite. And it is time to get moving. If you've got good ideas, keep them coming. We always need new thinking in our party. But if you believe in conservative principles and you believe in your heart that the direction Barack Obama wants to take this country is wrong, it's time to stand up together and punch back. Now, the mainstream media loves nothing more than to sow division among conservatives. They love it when we take shots at each other. It gets more coverage than a DC snowstorm. But unity is strength. And if you need any proof of that, just ask yourself how we ended up with government-run health care. Party unity is the reason we came within one vote, just one, of stopping Obamacare on a cold Christmas Eve morning 3 years ago. But it's also the reason it passed, by just one vote, every Republican against it, every Democrat for it. One vote was the difference between this stack of regulations and the alternative. So we need every vote we can get, and we need every seat we can get. But let me tell you what that doesn't mean. It doesn't mean we need to dilute our principles. More than ever, we need the kind of constitutional conservatives we've got in the Senate who've been really bringing the fight to the left. And I'm going to mention my Kentucky colleague Rand Paul as an example of that. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He's a warrior, and we need more warriors. Which leads me to my next point. As conservatives, we should never be on defense about our principles or our priorities. Don't let anybody tell you that Democrats have the upper hand on the issues. I don't care what the polls say. I mean, don't tell me Republicans are the party of millionaires and billionaires when Obama's campaign arm is charging people $500,000 for a meeting over near the White House. We all know his so-called Wall Street reforms are embraced by Wall Street but feared by Main Street. Fortune 500 CEOs embrace his tax hikes while small businesses shutter their windows. We're for millionaires and billionaires? Come on. Don't tell me Democrats are the ones looking out for working families. The only thing this administration's economic policies have accomplished when it comes to class is to ensure that the poor stay poor. And that the middle class lose their ability to become rich. And that the richest among us are forever insulated by a government that protects them from failure. Ladies and gentlemen, never before has there been so little risk that rich could become poor or that poor could become rich. Don't tell me Democrats are the party of compassion. If you ask me, the liberal idea of helping the poor looks a lot more like flypaper than a safety net. Look, we're concentrated on enabling dreams. They're focusing on managing expectations. So don't come to me with that. And don't tell me Republicans are out of ideas when the entire Democratic agenda was articulated during the Truman administration. I mean, we're living in the age of the iPad. And they haven't had a new idea since the days of the Studebaker. Don't tell me we're the party of intolerance when nearly 2 years before an election, some left-wing super PAC is sending out racist tweets about my wife for the supposed crime of being born in another country. So I want to pause on that point. Let me tell you something about my wife. My wife, Elaine Chao, was the best labor secretary we ever had. You may not know that she came here in the hull of a ship, a freighter. Her folks couldn't afford an airplane ticket. She was 8 years old when she got here. She couldn't speak a word of English. She worked hard her whole life pursuing a dream, and she achieved that dream. It's one of the principal reasons I fell in love with her. And it's the main reason she's a conservative. My wife is an American success story. And look, anybody who's got the nerve to question her patriotism doesn't know what tolerance is, do they? And don't tell me they're the party of education and choice. Today's Democrats will fight tooth and nail to protect bad teachers from being fired, and they'll fight even harder to make sure inner city parents don't have a choice to send their kids somewhere else. Don't tell me. The misery we see in so many cities in this country, especially among the poor, it isn't the result of the free market. It's a result of failed government programs. And we all know Detroit wasn't run by a Republican. And don't tell me Democrats represent the interests of young people. Washington Democrats stand around like a lookout guy at a bank robbery, pretending nothing's wrong, even as the Medicare and Social Security you're all paying for goes broke. Don't tell me today's Democrats are the party of fairness when public sector unions are getting benefits that are nearly 50% higher than the private sector. And these are the private sector workers who are paying the salary of the public sector workers. And they spend millions of those dollars on union dues that are used to attack anybody who dares to even question the logic of all of that. Finally, don't tell me Democrats are the party of the future when their presidential ticket for 2016 is shaping up to look like a rerun of the Golden Girls. You know, we got Rand Paul, we got Marco Rubio, we got Paul Ryan, and a slew of smart, young, and energetic governors ready to take America into the future. And the other guys, they got Hillary and Joe Biden. So don't tell me, folks, don't tell me. We are the party of compassion. We are the party of immigrants. We are the party of hardworking taxpayers. We are the party of mobility, opportunity, growth, life, liberty, optimism, and innovation. And look, it's time we started acting like it. And once we do, we'll have our comeback. Now, I know that some on the right have argued in recent months that the Republican Party is stuck on austerity, that all we do is talk about cuts, that we don't talk enough about the middle class. Well, like them, I believe that those who stand to benefit most from the restraint of government are the poor and the middle class. But I also know that the only people who set policy are those who win elections. And we're not going to do it by dropping a policy paper in everybody's mailbox. There's plenty of openness to new ideas, I assure you, but momentum comes first. And over the past few weeks, we've seen how it's done, with small victories that become bigger ones, with conservatives who can articulate the enduring principles of constitutional conservatism and apply them to a rapidly changing society. Last week, Rand reminded the world that politics isn't just about tactics. Actually, it isn't just about ideas either. It's about standing up for your values and your principles. It's about courage. It's about courage. We don't revere the founders just because they devised a brilliant system of Republican self-government. We revere them because they put skin in the game. They taught us by example that this experiment in self-government would endure if courageous men and women continued to defend it. In season and out of season, that's what Rand reminded us last week, and it was truly inspiring. And that's what makes this moment such a golden opportunity to get conservative messages out there. Because here's the dirty little secret about liberalism. It can't last. It cannot work. Look, we all know today's liberal has a two-word answer to every question: more government. But government, my friends, isn't the solution. It's a rest stop on the way to a solution. And that's where conservatism comes in. For too long, Democrats have preferred the thrill of political victory to the hard work of updating the creaky institutions of the great society for the age of the iPad. But we can do it. We can update these institutions because we're not beholden to any special interest. Our political power base isn't the labor unions. It's the Constitution. And look, that should give every one of us hope, not only for our party, but for our country. Because updating these institutions isn't just an economic imperative, it's a moral one. You and I know that the growth of government isn't a sign of political might, it's a sign that people are hurting out there. And government simply can't provide the answer to their problems. So in some ways, Obama's agenda has been making the conservative argument for us. And when the time comes for reform, and it will, we need to be ready with answers. But I completely reject the notion that we have a winning message for an electorate that doesn't exist anymore. Look, opportunity, growth, community, self-government, faith, family, life, innovation, choice, and freedom in all of its varieties. These things never lose their worth or their power to motivate and to inspire. Society may change, demographics may shift, but the principles that make us a free and prosperous society never do. And conservatives, we own these principles. We own them. And look, if we're confident of that, we'll win every day of the week. Friends, this is a moment of renewal. I truly believe it. I've been waging a fight on behalf of the First Amendment for a long time. It's been a tough battle, and most of the time, I've been in a very distinct minority. But I've always known it was the right cause, because the Constitution doesn't say you can abridge speech if it's during an election year, or if it's coming from a businessman whose politics you don't like. It says you can't abridge speech, period. Period. So I fought and I fought, a victory here, a setback there. I frankly, kept at it. And you know what? The courts started coming my way on a number of these cases, and slowly but surely, the principle I've been defending all these years is being vindicated. We've taken the same approach to Obamacare. We gave it everything we had, and we just barely lost the legislative fight. The Supreme Court ruling last summer, frankly, was another blow. But we can't just stand by and look at that assault on liberty behind me and do nothing. We're not going to stand by and look at this assault on liberty and do nothing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there were ever a symbol of what we're fighting against, this tower right here is it. And grounded in the principles that unite us, we'll fight this and every other assault on liberty that the left throws at us until we restore the American ideal. We may have to go around the media, their filter, to reach an audience. We'll probably be called obstructionists. Some will call us radicals. But if you're confident and you stay true to our principles and you lay a firm foundation that's needed, that's the way to renew American society. Because you see what happens, small victories lead to bigger victories. And then the renewal will come. And before you know it, we'll be back. It may not seem like it now, but we're actually winning. We have entered a new phase. So pick up the gauntlet, my friends, and run. Thank you very much.
The heart is a blue, shoots up through the stony ground. There's no room, no space to rent in this town. You're out of love.